Oh,
Live.
we are live. Now we are live. Okay, so now probably the note publish the note about the stream.
Yeah.
Hello everyone.
For joining.
Thank you for joining us with Jordan today. We'll start in 30 seconds. We broadcast that we are doing the live on Substack Notes, if you're familiar. And then briefly we'll start. Okay, I did the posting. So welcome everyone to the live stream that we are having today and the Perspective Ship newsletter. This time, last time we've seen each other on Jordan's place, which is Data Gibberish. We know each other for a few years with Jordan, so I want to introduce you specifically, but I will ask you, Jordan, to tell our audience how would you introduce yourself to someone who doesn't know anything about you.
Awesome. So I'm from Bulgaria. Thank you for having me, first of all. So I'm from Bulgaria, been in the tech industry for the last 15 years, started as a software engineer, tried to go into leadership, had terrible experience, restarted my career as a data engineer. And now for the last few years, I've been the head of data engineering in a big uh, British fintech company. Now, yeah, I'm also writing a newsletter, as Michal said. It's called Data Gibberish. So that's really it from my side. Oh, and probably, I do a lot of other things outside of work, but a lot of other things.
Thanks, Jordan. We are live, so if you have any specific questions, don't hesitate to ask them on the chat. I will be checking chat when we are talking. I have a bunch of questions regarding decision-making process because that's what I write about and that's what I'm passionate about, how different people solve problems and how I approach decisions. And I believe that Jordan's experience might be valuable here to present. But I will start with something less techy and less related to work because I know, Jordan, that you are a huge fan of video games and you play a lot. So do you see how playing games translates to solving problems, or how playing videos can teach you something about solving problems, or what lessons are you using while you're working at your position as head of data?
Amazing. Yeah, I play games a lot. So there are quite a few lessons that you can take. If I need to take my, I guess, like top three, this would be first of all, uh, playing well with your teammates, right? It's about, you need to learn that different people think differently. So you need to decide how you, based on the personality you work with or play with, uh how to act, how to react, how to talk to them, how to deliver news, if you wish. So it's very different. It's very similar, actually, both in video games and uh, work. The other important thing is that, again, both at work and in video games, you don't really have all the information. You often need to make decisions quickly without having all this information. Maybe 70% of the information, maybe 50% of the information, but you need to act quickly. You don't have the time to have everything. You just need to act. And I guess, uh, yeah, the third thing is, I would say again, acting. You need to, when you make a decision, don't go. My approach is, you don't go all in. You make a small step, see what happens, see the outcome, and adjust often, adjust quickly based on what happened. Because you and I spoke the last time. You had this very, very good thought about uh, that sometimes a good decision might have a bad outcome, not because the decision is bad again, but it's just not the right decision for for the event if you wish, for what happens at at this moment. So you need to adapt really. So yeah, this is really it, I guess.
So it's like video games are kind of a playground for decision making, to put it this
Yes,
way.
very much, very very
And
much.
is there any specific type of video games that works best at translating into teaching yourself decision making or trying decision making?
So the games I play a lot, are usually mostly with people. It's not like games that I play alone. It's with other people, which means a lot of communication. I play mostly those large scale strategic games, where not a lot depends on you on a single person, but everybody needs to play together to achieve this massive, massive goal. It's mostly large scale military simulators, but also lately I started playing another game called Arc Raiders, which is very social. You need to, again, when it comes to decision making, you need to decide very quickly. You need to talk to people and decide whether this person is like friendly or not friendly, and you don't have the time to hesitate, and you need to act again. You need to make the decision, live with it if you wish, or die with it. So
Nice. Look like you like them really much.
yeah.
So for to everyone who are joining, I mean, because we are live, we've got 15 people right now. So to anyone who joined, we are talking with head of data, Jordan Ivanov, and we're discussing right now topic of video games and how these translate to how we are making decisions and how we can use lessons from video games to work. And do you think that it really helps at your position? What you're learning while playing video games, do you use it daily? The same patterns, the same approach to decision making, for example, do you use it at your work?
Yeah, certainly. I think, I don't know if playing games helps me at work or working plays helps me in video games, but it's just transferable skill. Those are transferable skills that when you learn something and you find something out, you you can experiment a lot. And hey, you know what? This is what I learned at work. Let me try. For example, it might be silly, but I learned that being a jerk in video games doesn't serve you well. Let me try it to work, or vice versa. You know what I mean? But yeah, it
Mhm.
it certainly helps a lot. It's very much transferable.
Thanks. So switching gears a little bit from games to work, do you think is there anything specific how data engineers and yourself approach decision making versus ordinary engineers? I mean, ordinary is not a good wording, but engineers in general. How the data that you have in your job title influence how you make decisions?
It's probably very much the same. I haven't been in software engineering for a while, but this is how data engineers at least do it. Well, when we have a problem, first of all, we split it into small steps, right? Uh into small problems, into problems that we already know, and we take that small step, apply it, and check. Again, I already mentioned, but we test the waters and pivot, because very often, most of the times, I would say your stakeholders don't know what they really know, what they really want. So you need to help them by trying small things. And very often, when you work, you find out that you're not working on the right problem, or your decision is already too expensive. So you need to pivot quickly. So yeah, that's how data engineers do it. They split small things, check all this data about cost and business value if we wish, and that's how we pivot, how we adapt.
Thanks. We have one question from live chat from the LUX. I will just read the question. So in practice, changing decision too often puts a lot of stress on the team and hurts focus and morale. How do you manage that?
That's a great question. I love that. So I 100% agree with that. You can't change decisions all the time, right? So you still need to have an agenda, as in this is my big goal. Every decision you make needs to lead you to that big goal. If you have projects that come and go all the time, for example, in software engineering, when you lead teams, that certainly would lead to a lot of stress to the team. So when somebody comes and wants you to change your priorities, my approach is to always challenge them, as in how that serves, how important this is, and what's the how this helps the company really. It's very important because essentially what happens is lot of times people would say, "Oh no, I'm just experimenting." So you need to make sure that there's something there's something in this decision, as in it leads to a better future. If people see this, if they understand that, they'll also be very, very happy to align with that decision. I hope that makes sense, really. That's how I see it, really. What
Yeah,
about
and
you?
is there?
Sorry?
Yes, I think in general, changing the decision too often put a lot of stress. But if everyone is aligned, what's the underlying outcome and like what's our mission? I think it's okay to change as long as we really say why we are changing, right?
Yes.
Why we pivoted, what new data we got, and what was unknown at the time. But now we got new data, and now we are trying to adjust. So I think then that's the way of lowering stress. But it really depends on how difficult it is, right? And what's the stake of the particular problem or decision? Yeah, thanks. So and when it comes to documenting stuff, I'm a huge aficionado of using decision logs, and I try to write everything down. You know that, and we already talked about that. But what's your approach to decision making when it comes to the structure? I mean, do you talk with the team? Do you share the documents? Do you work together on some decision logs? How does it work when you cooperate with people while deciding on something?
Absolutely, yes. So when it comes to, I don't know, depends on the decision. So let's say it comes to what we are going to work on this year, let's say 2026. We need to plan our big goals. What I usually do is we sit together, we brain dump, everybody shares what they think we need to work. We align all of this with the company goals, put everything into a document. We call it usually like a wish list, and then start deciding, hey, you know what? This is important. This is important. We can work on this. You essentially know how much time you have. You have 1 year, for example. So you need to say yes to some things and you need to say no to other things. So you put some things under the line, still decide, still put this. Hey, you know what? I'm putting this below the line. We don't have the time, but these are things we decided to work on, and this is why. We usually put them, or I usually put these into. First of all, we have them in a Google Doc, this living document, the raw document, the source document, but then structure them well in a Confluence page where everybody can see it. It's important to me to be everybody to know what we've decided and propagate it to other levels. But decision logging, as in everybody can see what we decided and why decided, it's important to be a public thing in a wiki, share it on Slack and so on.
Okay, thanks, Jordan. We've got another question from Rafael. I mean, I encourage everyone to ask questions live. Just a reminder, we're talking live with Jordan Ivanov, head of data, and we are discussing decision making process. I'll read the question from Rafael. I hope I get it right. So Rafael asks, how do you make business pivot in startups without strong data and your personal feelings was wrong before? And how long we should stay in decision until the next pivot, and how to set time frames for pivots. So the situation is that we are gathering data. but it seems that maybe we should pivot and how to approach that. That's a very good question.
I love that question. Well, I guess, that's how I started in data in a small team. Yeah, you always have some data, like some data. You could be like access to raw tables if you wish, like in the backend or whatnot. You have some experience, like outcomes. This is what we tried and it didn't work. But the big thing for me is not jumping into big changes all in. But again, especially when it comes to startups, you know that startups work in this like MVP manner. So build an MVP, spend like 2 days on that, not more. Test it, test the waters, check what happens, and then continue. It's same with you know with content, even if you wish, when you write a newsletter or building the startup, you get your closest customers or readers or whatever your business is, and test the waters with those few people, check with them, and then decide whether this thing is working. So same comes with decisions. You want to make this big thing in a startup environment, test with a few customers, test with a few stakeholders, take 2 days, even before acting, I would say, just drill opinions. Would that work? People are very happy to help actually, and being involved in decision making because they feel empowered. So certainly ask other people involved them.
Thanks, Jordan. I would just ask that, I mean, add to that, that it's really important to take into consideration this sunk cost fallacy.
Yes.
And if we invested a lot, it's really difficult to switch our mind on the given topic. So it's really important to have a set of clear criteria, even before we start. I mean, what should happen? I mean, what are the criteria that we are changing our minds? And it's good to have it from the beginning, even before we start. So later on, we can refer to that. I hope that was helpful. I want to switch back just a little bit to the previous question, and because we are talking about the alignment of decision and what to do if someone is really disagreeing with what you decided on. For example, in your team, how do you approach disagreement?
Openly, really, disagreement is actually a great thing because if they disagree, they have a reason for that. They might be right, they might not be, but you need to listen carefully to what they have to say. I usually, especially if it comes into if this happens in a room, I don't do this like privately, if you wish. Address that on the spot in front of the whole team, so everybody has the opportunity to speak, if you wish. So what I say is, okay, you disagree. Tell me why, and then I'll tell why my why I think I'm right. Sometimes I'm not. Very often, I make wrong decisions. Everybody does. It's important to make sure that to realize that, to be conscious about when you're wrong and what and when not. So you'd listen to those people and decide together. Either you convince them, or they convince you, or third option is nobody gets convinced. So again, you take as a leader, for example, you take the executive decision, go with it, roll with it, and if it doesn't work, you pivot. As you said, sunken cost fallacy is a big thing, so it's important to be able to pivot, to say no.
And do you have any example that you can share with us of pivoting big decision that you make, but unfortunately, you pivoted?
Ah, I can share an example where we didn't pivot. Actually, I think that's even more interesting. We spent millions of pounds in a big project. Uh, Worked like 2 or 3 years on that project. Everybody knew it's not going well, but still nobody was uh wanted to like nobody wanted to say no because it's a big decision again. So we the more you fall into this, the more cause to occur. So the more you start praying, it will succeed. Eventually, we said no. We canceled the project, started it from scratch, the right way, so to speak. It was amazing decision. It was the best thing we could do. Sometimes you just need to say no, and it's amazing. It's great. It feels very, very well.
And what do you think was the biggest like stopper? I mean, why didn't it happen before? Why no one earlier said that we should pivot?
Because there was not a clear owner, right? There's
Okay.
nobody empowered enough to make decisions. Everybody was you have when you have when everybody's owning a problem, nobody owns it. So you need a single person who has the ultimate decision taking, this decision power.
Okay, so
So
no clear owner and like inertia was just
yeah,
it was going because it was going, right? So
yeah.
people were working it because they were working on it.
You had a great article about inertia, if I remember correctly.
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, inertia is a mental model taken from physics that if we are doing some movement on when the object is moving through the space, it will move forever. So that was this project that was moving forever because no one had proper force to start. I mean, no one used the force to stop it.
Yes.
Uh, okay, Jordan. That was about decision making. Just one more question about: do you have any one like key advice to someone who approaches decision? Is there something that works for you every time, or something that you are try to encourage people to do every time when you approach some decision? Is there like Jordan's key advice to decision making?
Yeah. Okay. We gravitated a lot about this, but to me, it's act quickly. Act. Don't be afraid, and pivot quickly. Be adaptive. Uh, Charles Darwin has this thing where he says that the most adaptive species are the ones who survive. It's same, in leadership, in decision making, you need to adapt quickly. So that's really my thing.
Act fast.
Yeah.
And I think I've just finished the article that will be sent in 2 weeks about two types of decision, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 are these irreversible that you cannot change. And I mean, what you decide cannot be changed, like selling a company, uh, having a kid, stuff like that. And type 2, where you can move really fast. And I think this is one of I mean, it's a pity, to be honest, that a lot of people approach this quick and fast decisions as this irreversible. And they are
Yeah.
putting too much time and effort into trying to decide on something that you can move fast and break things and adapt, as you said, Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to type them in chat. And hello, everyone, for joining our live. It's super cool. Yes, yes. I would just read what's on the chat because it's not staying in the history. I mean, you cannot see it later in the video. Sorry, if I got your name correctly, DLUX. We need a whole conversation on change management. It can be so difficult. I agree on that. Change management, it's subject to many studies and how people approach change. But yeah, that's part of decision making, and we already talk a bit about that when Jordan, you said about people disagreeing. I mean, that's partially how we can approach that by listening to people and giving the space to openly share their concerns with us. But switching gears a little bit from decision making to operations, I call it like modus operandi or daily operations. Because I know, Jordan, that well, I mean we are meeting like every 2 weeks, like in general on average, and I know that you have really strong push to action, as you just said, with this adaptability and the advice on decision making. And I mean, I really admire that, especially when you share how you use this bullet journal and how you plan your days, plan your tasks, stuff like that. So can you describe briefly to our listeners and viewers how does it work? What's the Jordan's typical day when it comes to how do you operate? What tools do you use? How do you plan your day? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So usually what I do is I have, as you mentioned, the bullet journaling. I've been keeping that for a couple of years now, and it works very well for me. Usually, the idea is you wake up, drink your coffee and whatnot, but at some point, open this physical notebook and start planning your day. This is what I need to do. These are some events, some meetings that I have, and put them in a physical notebook. It's physical, for because it is, I guess, because it's all thing. Uh, but it helps you a lot visualize your day, what you need to do, and it's very satisfying, saying I've done this. I love this part really, just marking a task as done. But to me, it's all about how much time you have. I like use my calendar a lot, as in if when it comes to tasks, I don't plan day per day, but I usually plan at least a week in advance, and I put all my things in my calendar because time is limited, really. And if you just have an ever growing to do list, you treat it as you know infinite. However, when you put those things in the calendar, you can see exactly where you how much time you have to do certain thing, and how many things you can do. That's again back to this thing. You say yes to one thing, but this means you need to say no to another thing. But to me, it's all about putting these things. The most important thing, though, is my reflection time. In the evenings, what I do is I sit alone, like, in a quiet place, in a different room, or even if it's with my family. I sit and like write a message to myself. This is what I've done. This is how it made me feel. All of these things, because these kind of reflections, deep reflections, help me a lot to realize, you know, even back to decisions. Why I took some decisions. Was it good? Was it bad? What I can change? What I need to do next? To improve the situation. So
And
yeah.
you're doing this on the paper on or digital way?
Okay, that's a separate question. So, uh, I was doing it on a paper for a long time. Now I started building let's call it an app. I built an app for myself because having the notebook with yourself all the time is not very convenient, but I write emails a lot. So what I built is this thing where you type an email to yourself, and it got saved to your memory if you wish, but you can also interrogate it. It asks you, it uses a lot of AI, so it asks you these deep reflective questions that, yeah, again, help you reflect even more on what you've just said. So nowadays it's more digital, especially this journaling thing, because it's easier to me.
So every day you write this email to this app? Does it work this way right now?
Every day, sometimes multiple times a day, especially if something big happens in my life, in my work, and I need to uh vent, if you wish. If you want to vent, it very much helps to write a letter. In the in the past, I literally used to write in this physical notebook, like just write so I can vent. But now it's digital, so I write the email to myself.
And what was the decision behind starting this side project?
Realistically, bullet journaling it's still, it's good, but it's not very convenient to have a physical paper. Number one, and number two is I started feeling this app fatigue. As in, you have too many apps, too many logins. It's very hard to navigate but to find where you want to write your thoughts. Really, by the time I find this new app, I already forgot what I wanted to. But email is always open. It's always there, so it's easy to me to navigate. I just write the email and forget about it. It's it's just easy. It's easy, and uh, does it's not distractible. Is that a word?
Yeah.
As in indestructible. This word, this book. I don't know if you've heard of, if you read.
Yeah, I think it works. It works. So how our viewers and listeners can use this app?
Okay, so it's very buggy still. It's work in progress, but the app is called Dear Self, as in you write to yourself. So it's dearself.ai. I can post a link in the chat here, but yeah, uh, yeah, I'll paste
Yeah,
the
by the
link.
way, every link that we are using and what we're discussing, I know that we went into the bullet journaling without clearly explaining what it is. It's just way of, I mean, I think it's registered trademark of doing, I mean, they somehow teach this bullet journaling online. So I think that's the name of the technique, specific technique on how you write things on the paper and how you number your pages and how you get back to these pages. So that's something specific. We'll put the link in the
Yeah.
article that will be with together with the video and audio recording after this live. Okay, so dearself.ai,
Eh,
that's for someone who's just listening to us. And any bigger plans for that? I mean,
I, I don't know. Like at this point, to me, it's like I need to fix a few small things. The more feedback I get, the better. It's very early, so it's still shaping. But to me, the big thing is to make you more productive, as in help you be more conscious about what you do and why you do things, why you make certain decisions. Really, really about decision making. It's all about this. So that's the big thing.
so you're working full time, right? As
Yes.
head of data. You're
Yes.
writing your newsletter, Data Gibberish, and you're also creating this side gig slash project, which is called Dear Self. And how do you find time to do all of this?
Calendar again. Calendar. I know how much time I have for work. I need to spend some time with my family. I have limited time, again, to writing. For example, I always write my emails, my newsletters only in the weekends. Like have 2 hours blocks in the weekends. And yeah, it's all about prioritization, really. Again, you need to make, if you commit to a decision, if you commit to doing something else, to do something, you need to find the time. If you don't have the time, it means there's something with a bigger priority. So you need to decide what is that thing with what has the higher priority. That's really it. I don't really believe in this, thing. I don't have the time.
Yeah, it's like it's not my priority, right? That's the
Yeah,
answer. I
exactly
don't
what
have
you're
time for
saying.
that. That's not my priority.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember once that I think we were chatting about writing a newsletter, and you said that you already have the plan for the whole year, right?
Yes.
That was that was true. While I would just like I was thinking about 2 articles in advance, so I thought, okay, Michał, you have some room. There is some room to for improvements on my side. So yeah. And why newsletter? Why did you start Data Gibberish? And I think the name is something that's people ask you about, right? Data Gibberish. What was the origin of the name, and what did you start Substack?
Awesome. So I recently checked, and apparently I've had my like personal website slash blog since 2013. I've always liked writing. I love writing because when you write, it helps you with your ideas, as in you get more clarity about what you think and why you think this way. Started this blog, it sometimes blogged, sometimes didn't. At some point found found out about Substack and decided, you know what, this is a great idea. I can host my blog if you wish there. But I wanted to be specifically about data because I lead a team as a head of data engineering, and I started seeing a lot of repetitive questions. People had the same concerns during one-on-ones, and I decided, you know what? If I help my team, and then they obviously find this useful, maybe a lot of other people would find it useful. And it's data gibberish because it's really, really about everything about in data in the data space. It's not. only technical. It's not only career level, career advice. If you wish. It's everything that people want to talk about. It's my blurbs, if you wish. So that's why. That's all. I'm trying to help people.
And what are the plans for the future? For this year, for example? Is there a highlight for data gibberish?
Uh, Keep doing it. Certainly, twice a week. Uh, my big plan is to start doing more of these, lives like you invited me. But yeah, connecting more with the audience. There are a lot of people who strive for this kind of content that's not, strictly technical. So yeah.
Do you have any advice to people that would like to start writing and but are scared or maybe feeling that there's so much AI involved in writing that who read that and all of that? There's a lot of cheap text created every minute and all of that.
So my advice is first, just do it. You know, Worst case scenario, nobody reads it. So you know what what would happen? Nothing. You wrote something. It doesn't hurt you, but it's your thoughts. It's very important to be your thoughts, not how people say it. Some AI slop. It's very very important to be yourself in your writing. Uh, but yeah, just write. It doesn't take as much time as you might think. Yeah, certainly. When I started, it was taking me like I don't know 5, 6, 10 hours per article, especially if you want to add more data, more statistics, and all of this. But you just write, and it works very well because it's your thoughts. Again, it gives you more clarity. If you start getting readers, that's even better because it means there are other people who think like you, and you start building this community. And again, it's amazing, right? Really, writing a newsletter is something different. I like this. I love this.
I like the aspect of meeting new people, and that's how we met with Jordan
Yeah,
because we were just chatting about writing a newsletter. So that's how we met 2 years ago, and it still continues. And we exchange our thoughts on writing and all of that. And do you have, Jordan, anything that you would like to add to someone who would like to start a newsletter, like advice? I mean, probably I can hear, I feel that might be the same as with decision making, right? But just
yeah,
just
same.
starting is the
Just
advice.
start it. Just start it. Don't hesitate. Just start it. It's great. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Share it
Just
with
one
us,
more
actually,
question.
I would say. Sorry?
Can you repeat?
I would say share it with us. I would love to read your stuff.
Yeah, share it with us. Uh, when it comes to, I just had one thought, and I need to switch. I mean, go back in the history of this live conversation with Jordan, head of data, for a bit. You mentioned pairing tasks that you have with your calendar, and do you have like any specific way of doing that? I mean, you just have your tasks somewhere in a task tracker, and you just put them in the calendar. That's it, or just you stick to the calendar. How does it work?
I've tried countless of applications, countless of frameworks, if you wish. To me, it's all about simplicity. I stopped doing all of this. So I have my tasks, let's say in this journal thing or application or whatever, and have the normal calendar, let's say Google Calendar, whatever app you have, and stick them into the calendar. Simplicity beats everything, really.
So yeah, simple systems
Do you
and
use
moving
something
fast.
specific?
I right now all into Obsidian and tasks in Obsidian. Everything is on Obsidian. I'm not that hardcore user of calendar. I just put blocks of time for given things, but it's mostly for me. It's just mostly Obsidian right now. But it evolved. It was evolving, and it still evolves. And I'm a huge fan of blocking myself. I use app called Freedom, which just has set time blocks where it just disconnects me from everything for even from the internet, but mostly from every kind of distraction that I can try to use. So I'm not trusting myself that much. So I'm into more just controlling everything that happens and putting calendar blocks to do that. Okay, Jordan. I think we can start to wrap up, right? We've got 40 minutes of the stream. Any advice except just adapting and doing stuff and acting as fast as you can? Anything that comes to your mind?
Talk to people. When you have a decision to make, people around you are the best people, you can drill, those things. You can check them. You have a team, you have close friends or family, coworkers, people who you trust. You know, it's it worth nothing to share that with them and ask them about their opinion. But ultimately, it's your decision. It's important you know, to take responsibility about your decisions. Because if you fail, you fail. Okay, you'd find a way to fix it. But if you succeed, it's your success. It's not somebody else's success. So certainly, take responsibility for your decisions.
That's a great closure, I think. Okay, thank you very much, Jordan. Can you remind people how they can find you?
Yes. So the best way to find me is on my newsletter. That's datagibberish.com. And yeah, you can find some other links like LinkedIn or this uh, journaling app and everything else in there.
Okay, thank you very much, Jordan, for all the knowledge that you shared with us. Thanks everyone for tuning in and listening to us, watching us, and also everyone who listens to it afterwards. Also, thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.